This is Suze Orman. Suze is a personal finance expert with a program that ran for 13 seasons on CNBC and a library of New York Times best-selling books on a variety of topics ranging from retirement planning to wealth building. Suze probably reached her peak popularity between the 1990s and the 2000s somewhere, but she continues to be quoted in financial news today, including this recent article I read on Go Banking Rates by Gabriella Olia. Suze Orman says you do not need money to make money. It's one of the biggest financial myths. That's the title. In this article, the author acknowledges it can be easy to feel defeated when you're struggling financially. Fortunately, Suze Orman has the insights you need if you're not feeling good about your current economic situation. What is this good news, you ask? Well, here it is. You don't need to make any more money to start saving money. Then Suze shares this hypothetical example. If you contributed $25 to an emergency savings account when you are paid every 2 weeks, you'll have $1,000 saved in less than 2 years. Bump up that number to $50 every 2 weeks and you'll have $1,000 in an emergency savings account in about 10 months. Now, as someone who has struggled financially in the past, I feel obligated to share my perspective on this article and the advice given by Suze herself. Honestly, this reminds me of the sort of advice I used to read and take to heart about 15 years ago in my early days in my own personal finance journey, if you will. Cut out the Starbucks, bring your own lunch to work, cut the cable TV, cut those magazine subscriptions. I guess I still had one back then. Now, back in the day, this was the popular advice that you would get from personal finance experts. And I feel like I was like the one person that actually took this stuff to heart to try to change my own financial situation after graduating college, entering the workforce, and discovering, to my surprise, that I was up to eyeballs in bad debt. But here's the thing. Here's always what happened to me when I tried to follow this sort of advice. I'd be able to save up a few $100 in an emergency fund, but after following the plan for a number of months, something unexpected would happen. That would require me to basically spend my entire emergency savings and I'd be starting over from zero. One time my emergency savings was wiped out by a flat tire when I was driving to work. Another time I woke up and the rear side window in my car had been smashed in. That cost about $350 to repair that obviously I hadn't planned for. The fact is, in life, minor emergencies like this, they're just gonna pop up. And if you've got kids, I mean, just forget about it. You can count on some type of expense every year, whether it's braces or some type of school-related expense. It's gonna happen. Keep in mind, it's not like I was one of these people that was buying Starbucks at this time. I didn't have cable TV at my apartment. I didn't even have health insurance, and I was splitting rent in a 1-bedroom apartment, sleeping on a couch, if you must know. Which leads me to my next point. At a certain point, you just can't really cut anymore. I felt like I cut out pretty much everything that I could within reason. Yeah, I could have got ridden my cell phone. I could have, sold my car and taken the bus to work, which is not very easy to do when you're working an office job in Southern California. A cell phone, you can't get rid of that now if you want to try to get a job somewhere. At some point, you just can't give up anything else. In the article, Suze goes on to explain that every little bit of savings counts and suggests imagining how that $1,000 in an emergency fund would change your life in the future. $1,000. I mean, right now, that's like 3 trips to the grocery store. So here's the deal. I believe everyone should have an emergency fund and get into the habit of setting aside money from every paycheck that isn't being spent. I think that's just a good idea. But the fact is, at some point, you need to think less about cutting and you got to start thinking about more about what you can do to expand your means. So here's a few ways you could do this. You could get a promotion at work, you could find a better paying job, or you could start a side business like the folks did in my database of 102 examples of solo founder business ideas with revenue numbers. This database is free to access and is going to get your mind thinking about different opportunities that will help you bring in more income based on your experience. It's free to download in the description below. But don't take my word for it. Do you think Suze follows this advice when it comes to her own financial planning? Well, I'm sure Suze has a nice emergency fund. I want to look beyond Suze's financial advice and take a look at what she's really been doing the last few decades to grow her own wealth? Let me know in the comments below if you think Suze's actions in her own life are different from the suggestions she usually makes on her television programs or podcasts. Let's start off with Suze's original origin story, and she's got a great one. According to her official website, Suze spent much of her 20s earning $400 a month waiting tables. Then there was a life-changing financial event that happened in her life. Suze got a job as a broker where she went from making $400 per month as a waitress to $1,500 per month in income. Now, I love Suze's story and I think it's worth reading for inspiration, but it's worth calling out that Suze's financial transformation didn't begin by her mindlessly sticking $50 per month into an emergency fund and keeping her waitress job forever and ever. Of course it didn't. Suze's personal finances changed when she was able to get a new job where she earned more than twice her previous income. In addition to the pay increase, Suze was able to learn new skills, and she got introduced, of course, to a whole new set of people in the world of finance. But of course, Suze didn't stop there. Eventually, she started a business to really multiply her wealth. In the mid-1980s, she founded the Suze Orman Financial Group. Here are some of the ways Suze's businesses generate revenue that's contributed to her estimated net worth of $75 million. Naturally, Suze has sold books and courses. Suze has more than 50 book titles on Amazon.com alone. She's even got a kid's book. How about that? Now, according to her website, she's sold more than 3 million books over the years. She also sells a variety of DVDs, CDs, and courses that you can buy too. But Suze didn't stop with books and courses. She's also co-founded other startups. Suze has focused on building other businesses that bring in revenue. For example, she's the co-founder of a company called Secure Save. According to the website, Secure Save is a company that helps employees improve financial wellness through emergency savings programs through their employer. While I couldn't find how much revenue the company made or if she's made any money from this particular startup, but the company was able to raise an additional $11 million in investment in 2022 alone. She's also doing some lending and investing. When asked how Suze Orman invests her own wealth during an interview, Suze said she lends to gold miners, buys annuities, makes other investments too. This interview was for an audience of investors, but it's worth noting that when it comes to managing her own personal finances, Suze isn't relying on her emergency fund. In fact, she's not even mentioning it. As you can see, Suze has built her own personal wealth with a business and then reinvesting profits from the business into various assets. Now, here's the deal. Do I think an emergency fund is good and everyone needs a cushion for the unexpected? Yes, of course. But I also think you've got to be real with people. Sticking around in the same job, not even attempting to expand your means, is a recipe for being in the exact same financial situation 3 years from now. The only difference is you might end up being even more frustrated because you've been following this plan of trying to cut everything, cut out every line item expense out of your life, and yet you still can't seem to get ahead and get comfortable. You followed a game plan for years and you ended up without much of anything to show from it at the end because the plan was just so bad. This sort of watered down financial advice is, in my opinion, a bit condescending to viewers who actually want to make a change in their life. If Suze talked a little bit more about the process she actually used to build wealth, I think it would be a lot more interesting and honest for her viewers. The advice in this article suggests that if you just continue sticking it out there in your current job, you just kick a few bucks into your savings account every paycheck, then you're going to be doing the right thing and eventually you're going to become comfortable financially. But from my experience, you've got to make a more disruptive life change to get a better result. Sadly, the mainstream finance gurus, some of these folks, they just never get real about this. Maybe it's because they think the truth would be too complex for the average American. Maybe the viewers would just lose interest. I'm not really sure why, but let me know what you think in the comments. Finally, if you do like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. I'm a small channel and will respond to anyone with a legit comment. Take care.